Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. There's a lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Wow, aren't things getting disturbing in South Africa? Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. Firstly, I want to thank Rudy for the live stream from Lichtenburg, and to Simone, who covered the Pretoria protest for Loving Life earlier today, South African time. When I last looked, we had close to 15,000 views of our live stream covering the Lichtenburg meeting and the Pretoria protest against fire murders that ended just a few hours ago. And that's really good to see. It's gaining traction internationally. I received this info about our coverage of Lichtenburg. Hi Scott, just spoke to a guy I know in Lichtenburg. He says that there is no internet or cell phone coverage in the area near the meeting. Looks like signal jamming. He passed there about 30 minutes ago. Thankfully, the network issues were resolved later. Last night we had a live stream for Chris of Boere Droogtehulp and have raised nearly 20,000 rand. Thank you for the donors who sent 7,000 rand and 6,000 rand without even bidding for the painting, which we sold separately for several thousand rand. Tonight I'm talking to Jess, who hails from Senekal. We'll be talking about the situation on the ground following the horrific murder of young Brendan Horner. The fake news SABC are trying to suggest that the farming community should not be seen in special light because of the high murder rate in South Africa, and imply that the protest yesterday at the Union Building could have been violent. You've got to be joking. Let's listen to a short clip of that. This is how the protests in South Africa are being portrayed by the fake SABC news. Here we go. I'm going to play that clip for you.
Seriously, of course, it's a bit of a tricky one because, as I mentioned to you, you have a country that has a murder rate of about 21,000 people being killed annually, and then you have a farming community. If I look at the last statistics, which was 2018-2019, it was about 47 murders that occurred there. Yeah. So then when you look at the numbers, you think that perhaps other communities are facing a greater risk. So then why should this be a priority? So there is a bit of controversy and politics around it, but certainly the farming community community is not backing down, and they say that they want government to take this matter seriously.
You reckon this convoy, this protest, it's relatively peaceful at this stage? Talk to us about the police presence monitoring this convoy.
All right, well, yeah, indeed, at this particular point in time, I'm sure if my colleague again can point to the shots, it's been peaceful so far as the convoy is moving at about 30 kilometers per hour on the N14 in Pretoria, heading to the Union buildings. What will happen when we get to the Union buildings, Blaine, is a different story. We will have to see when we get there, because, of course, we remember that we saw those scenes in the Free State in Senekal, where then things got a bit out of hand. We don't know if that's going to happen here, and we hope that something like that does not happen. But so far, there is a great deal of police presence monitoring the traffic, and it's been going quite well. But of course, where the final destination is the Union buildings at the South Lawns there. Interestingly, by the Louis Botha statue, that's where they're going to be making their demonstrations and their calls. And then we will see how that goes. But so far on the road, it's been a smooth demonstration. But once we gather at the Union buildings, then I can't tell you what will happen there, but I can tell you that we will be there live to bring it to our viewers here on SABC News.
All right, Sipho.
Okay, there you hear it firsthand. That's how SABC are presenting the protests that would happen yesterday. Absolutely disgusting. Remember, they didn't even bother to cover the protest last Tuesday when the community at Senekal said enough's enough, and they gathered around to make sure that those two murderers were not let out on bail. Now, let's remember that although the SABC did not cover that huge protest, they did cover a protest a couple of days later, where about 30 ANC Youth League members at Senekal had a little bit of a protest, jumping up and down and saying, these farmers are terrible, they shouldn't be doing this, they shouldn't be doing that. They covered that. This is called fake news. This is the state of the news in South Africa today. It's getting worse than the fake news in America. Right, and of course they're doing that because they're trying to cover up what's happening to the farmers in South Africa. That's behind all this. Now, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed and post any questions you have for Jess in the side chat. I'm going to get Jess on now, and let's get the show on the road. Here we go. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Scott. How are you doing?
Excellent, thank you. Excellent. Now, Jess, you're in Senekal, aren't you?
I'm just outside of Paul.
Okay, but what is the feeling like at the moment in the community? Are they still really tense? I mean, just give me an idea of what the situation is on the ground there right now.
I think really the media overblown the thing about tensions and stuff. There was a little bit insecurities, I would rather describe it as. And we had meetings with community leaders and addressed all the fears. And I think mostly everybody is relaxed and there's really no underlying tensions or anything going on, except for maybe a small group of people.
Right. Okay. Now, I have to say to you that I saw an email that this lady wrote where she said that she went into Paul Roo and she had to do some shopping and she got some food for her animals and she stopped at a spaza shop. I don't know if you saw that one, where she said that there were quite a few Africans in the spaza shop, and when she walked in, everybody went very quiet, and you know, someone approached her and said, "Did you go to the protest at Senekal?" And she said, "Yes." And everybody said, "Fantastic." And they said, "Look, we're right behind you on the 16th. If you guys stop your buckies, you know, I don't know where it was going to be, but you would know. We will let you get in the back of your bucky and support you at Senekal." Did you see that email?
Yes, I saw that email. Now the big thing is people portray this whole thing as again as a racial thing about black and white against each
It's
other,
not.
but it's not. It is about everybody's in solidarity against crime. The stock theft that's plaguing our area is not just white farmers; it's the black farmers that's affected as well, and that's what people don't understand. It's all of us in South Africa against crime.
Yeah. Look, I get that. And I am furious with SABC. I've just, before you came on, I actually played a little clip where they were suggesting that the protesters who went to union buildings yesterday might go and trash stuff. I mean, the only people I know who trash stuff are the EFF and Julius Malema.
Yeah, no, it is not in our way to do anything like that.
Exactly.
I don't know, there's some Facebook post as well after we left Senekal, where we gathered. There was no rubbish, nothing lying around. We left it cleaner than when we found it when we came there.
No burning tires, no necklacing, no rocks being thrown through vehicles, none of that. No looting,
None of that.
no shops being destroyed. You know, this is what really pisses me off about the mainstream media in South Africa, is that they present such a distorted picture of what's going on. And look, I know I've been reporting on the events in South Africa for the last few years, and you know, the things that happen are just shocking. But rarely, if ever, do you see a white person involved in that sort of shit. Now, I want to get back to Senekal and Paul Roux and the situation on the ground there. Tell me what this is all about. Is it about a young man who was savagely murdered?
Yes, and that's one thing that the media took the whole attention away from, this young man that his whole life had in front of him, that was stolen from him, killed in a barbaric way. And that's unfortunately, a lot of people the media went away from the actual story about this young boy that lost his life so gruesomely. And it's important that we get back to him and the underlying causes why he was murdered.
Right. Now, just on that particular point, it's very, very disturbing that Ramaphosa has not come out and said something about this, isn't it? I mean, the horrific way this young man was murdered was just shocking.
No, it was shocking. It's very sad that we don't have real leadership, people standing up. It's always about identity politics, like all over the world. If we had some leadership and said we denounce his death, it's not acceptable, and accept that it's a problem in South Africa. A lot of people asked me in the last few days, I said, but what is farm murders different than murders in town? And I said, in the end, it's a life lost. I said, but the big difference between a murder in town is usually a guy is stabbed or shot for being something to be stolen. But what makes farm murders different is the horrific nature of it. It's the rape, the torture, and the length of what they go to try and
it's torture.
Get a message across, it seems sometimes.
Yeah. I just want to quickly address the side chat. We've got about 700 people watching us at the moment. I just want to say, guys, if you've got questions you'd like to put to Jess, please just put them in the side chat and I'll put those to him later. And please remember to subscribe to the Loving Life channel. We cover the real news in South Africa. Okay, let's get back to the political side. We've just touched on Ramaphosa being derelict in his duty to actually addressing the issue. Now, you've got Bekesele, the police minister, who the day after the Tuesday protest said, arrest them. Now, what happened with the EFF and cliques? He never said that. I mean, they went in there, they petrol bombed a store, they looted other stores. There was horrific stuff going on around South Africa. And then Julius Malema went to the people who run these businesses. It wasn't just cliques in isolation. There were other ones as well. And he basically bribed them. He said, if you don't do this, that, and the other, you're going to be in the shit. What's going on here? Bekele does nothing about the EFF and their members, and here they are targeting white farmers who are protesting peacefully and who were basically put in a position where they were forced to react because there was a woman and a young child who was nearly driven over by that police vehicle. What are your views on the police minister and the way that the police are handling this whole thing?
Well, there's two sides of it that I want to touch on. The one let's go first back. If you say police, let's go back to our local police, the police officers that we deal with daily. I would recommend or commend the detectives that investigated the case and were able to do arrests so quickly. From the farming community and the people around Porto and Senekal, we really want to thank them for that. If we go to the minister, it is really sad that it keeps on playing politics. We need a minister that speaks for all South Africans and is anti-crime and stuff. We get the feeling now that we are not being treated equally to other incidents and stuff. Nowhere else has he ever asked or demanded any action to be taken so swiftly. So it is really sad that is happening. The actions of the police on the day, they were caught off guard of what was happening. On one side, I want to commend them that they did not use force. Things could have gotten out of hand very quickly. I think the police officers were a little out of their depth with all of this happening. And it was unfortunate that they nearly ran over people. These people that looking into that. But it's a difficult situation that we find ourselves in with these kind of things.
You know, the thing is that if this would just be a one-off with Bekele, you could accept it. But this is the second time I know of in the last few weeks where he's done this, where a white person has been involved. Remember that lady who was being pushed around and taunted when she was going past a Click store by EFF members, and she pulled out a gun to protect herself. Didn't fire any shots, but she was obviously in a very distraught state. And that video went viral. And within hours, Bekele was saying she must be arrested. Now, this is clearly racial, what the police minister is doing. I think if Ramaphosa is to be fair, he needs to get rid of Bekele. In fact, the whole ANC ministry needs to be replaced. They're all a complete load of, you know what. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I said we must try to use international terms maybe and say they're playing identity politics. That it's unfortunate that we must leave the judiciary and the police service to carry on and do their jobs. For the minister to demand that people are arrested and action being taken is sending the wrong message across. Everyone must be treated fairly under the law and everybody equally. We can't have a minister always demanding that somebody must be arrested, a white person must be arrested. It's really a problem for South Africa.
Absolutely, it's a huge issue. Now, let's talk about political responsibility. And I'm talking in particular with people like Jacob Zuma a few years ago. Kill the boer, kill the farmer. You know, and now you have people like Julius Malema, who's clearly antagonizing people and saying, hey, you know, we've got to take out these whites. Don't you find it remarkable that when it comes to this sort of hate speech that's happening, nothing is done about it by the South African Human Rights Commission? When you consider what happened to people like Vicky Momberg, who was, you know, incarcerated. Well, she was given 2 years, but she was let out after a few months for just using the K word. When you consider a politician saying this in a public platform to his own supporters, you know, he is inciting violence, and yet nothing is done about it. What are your views on that?
Yes, it's again of lack of leadership that we don't have real leadership in this country. Um, the political leaders must remember they are saying things and they say it is a struggle song, it is
That's
just
bullshit.
political talk. But the problem is the people on the ground that has lost hope, that's been really neglected by the government. They need a lightning rod to get rid of their frustrations. And it's always nice to blame somebody else. And for always the farmers is being blamed for everything that's wrong in this country. So by the statements that they make out in public, which they just flippantly says it's just they don't incite violence, but the people on the ground, the guy that is the guy that listening to his message, the message he gets is that it's acceptable to hurt and to kill farmers, and people should become responsible and stop doing that and not do everything just for cheap political gains all the time. People are bleeding for paying in blood for those comments that they're making all the time. Words that do have consequences.
Right. I totally get it. And I think the thing that I find very disturbing is that there are reports that these thugs that go out and actually commit these farm murders are very, very well trained. Now, who's training them? Because that is a huge
for our
issue.
intelligence services to find out. There's a lot of speculations about all of these things. It's either people coming across the border that had military training, people that had military training previously and stuff. But that's the whole thing that our security services have to look into.
Absolutely, they do. I mean, it is, and of course, 99.99% apparently of farm attacks are from inside information. Someone who actually works for you actually provides the information, and that's what's actually acted on. And that's very, very disturbing.
Unfortunately, that is true. Sometimes of the times it is intentional that they give information away, grievances and stuff, but which is a very small percentage. A lot of the times it's people talk and they don't realize that they are giving out information. We have to look after ourselves all the time and be careful and don't trust anybody, especially if somebody calls you at night out. Their families are being threatened as well to force them to come to you. So they're also in a very difficult situation in that case. So we must just each time know that things can be wrong. My farm workers already told me that they sometimes, if they see something wrong, they will not come into the gate. They'll drive past. They won't open the gates and stuff. So it means that they're talking about it as well and are scared as well about all these attacks that is going on. They're also on the front line.
Right. Now, look, earlier today I covered a protest at the Union buildings in Pretoria about farm murders. And one of the huge issues that everybody has is that the government is denying that there is a problem with the farm attacks in South Africa. In fact, Cyril Ramaphosa goes so far as to suggest that no white farmers are murdered. And he said that in 2019, I think it was, in response to Twitter by Donald Trump. What are your thoughts about this? I mean, that level of complete, ignorance or just trying to pass it off as it's not an issue. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's exacerbating the situation?
No, it's definitely, because if you don't recognize a problem and accept that there's a problem, you can't start fixing it. You only once can move forward once you know what the problem is and accepts that it is a problem. I think they're getting so much flack from inadequacies in their leadership and things that they're doing. They don't want to add anything more, especially if it shows that they are neglecting one part of the population. It doesn't fit in with their narratives and the things that they want to portray.
Right. Now, just before we move on with the subject, tell me about your role in the community at Paul Roux.
We try to make a difference working with the police to increase rural safety. because we don't do it ourselves, it will never work. It's always important that you have got open channel with the police, and then have plans and contingency plans in place, rehearse them, and to make sure that if something happens that we can act and get help as quickly as possible to people. So that's basically my role, is try to facilitate that and keep our community safe and interact with other community leaders.
Right. Now, it must be really hard for the good cops on the road, you know, the guys who are trying to do the right thing, because there are so many police today in South Africa who are basically gangsters. I mean, they're actually part of gangs, and they rent out their guns and stuff like that. And we're getting these first-hand reports of this happening. For the good cops on the road, you know, the guys who do the right thing, it must be really tough. With your discussions with them, how are they feeling right now?
I haven't had much discussions in the past week with them. It was a little bit hectic, and but their work and their life is really difficult, because they don't know who they can trust. Like you said, there is policemen involved with crime and things. So they're really in a difficult position. So it's important that we try to help them in their jobs and make it as easy as possible for them. We can't be part of the problem. We have to be part of the solution for them. And hopefully in a way try to get rid of the bad cops. If we just stand by the side, they will win. We have to be part of the solution and work with the good cops to get things done.
Well, some people are now suggesting part of the solution when it comes to the rural areas should be the farmers setting up their own commandos and just leaving the police out of it and arresting people and then taking them to the police, rather than having the situation where no one comes when a call is made and these guys get tortured.
It's a dangerous position to move into that. I can understand the people feeling like that. If we take our rural safety plans that we did in collaboration with provincial police a couple of years ago with organized agriculture, we've got a system set up that we do patrols with the police. If something happens, there's an incident on a farm, how we secure the premises and how we hand it over to the police once they arrive. We are not trained to take statements to collect evidence. So if we start arresting people without the proper legal things get in place, everything is just going to fall on the ground and it's going to just create a bigger problem for us. I think our biggest problem is the people on the ground. Not everybody is involved with their communities in their safety plans. It's everybody's responsibility to be part of the plans in the community. We can't force people to be part of the solution. People must by themselves decide they want to protect themselves and be part of our plans that we've got on the ground. And all of that is within the legal framework that we've got. Our law does not allow for third forces or other paramilitary forces or police forces to run around. So if we have got good relationship with the police, with that good cops that you talk about, and we've got our plans in place, we can be effective in combating crime and looking after our people in the same time. That's, I think, a safer option to get to.
Right. Okay. I guess my issue is that there appear to be two sets of rules, and it's basically race-based because of the Bekesele. I think that's what I find very disturbing. But let's move on from that. Why are farm murders different to other murders?
Okay, the end, what I understand from the government and their view is politically wise, is that all murders are the same. And yes, it's the same in that a life is lost. The difference between a farm murder is the horrific nature of it. It's not just somebody that gets killed. They are being tortured, they are raped. And it takes sometimes hours that the attackers spend with them and make their last hours pure hell. So, and that what makes it different than other murders. It's not just a straightforward murder. It's more an act of terrorism than just a straightforward murder.
Right. Now, just talking about the horrific way they torture people, my understanding is that a lot of these thugs who actually commit these outrageous murders actually see a witch doctor before actually going out and committing the farm attack. It's like, they can be made invisible and crap like that. They have these weird beliefs. And apparently, when you talk about witchcraft, the more torture you put someone through, especially if you're going to be taking a part of that person's body, the more powerful the muti from that appendage of a person. Have you heard that?
Oh, there was cases of it, but it's a lot of times with all crimes that they've got that beliefs. With the cases that we were involved with, we did not have a lot of that, but it was not always part of the investigation and things that we were looking at that time. So I'm not that familiar with all the details around it, but I've heard about it in the past years.
Yeah, look, I find it absolutely disgusting. In fact, tomorrow night at 8 p.m., I'm going to be talking to 4 very, very Christian, spiritual men about the spiritual war that's happening around us, not just in South Africa, but around the world. It's going to be a very, very interesting discussion. Now,
I can imagine that.
Yeah, now let's talk about farm murder statistics. And I want to talk about it in 2 ways. One, farmers are obviously becoming more forearmed to what's going on. A few years ago, they hadn't realized that they were in danger, but now they are. And as a result of them protecting themselves better, it appears that fewer farmers, up until this year, were being murdered. Something happened this year during the lockdown. In the early part of the lockdown, there weren't many farm murders, but when it came down to level 3, 2, and 1, the attacks and the murders just went up exponentially. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we've always had the farm attacks has been about constant that we have a farm attack, just over more than 1 farm attack a day that occurs. And we've got about every 3rd day a farmer gets killed. So that's actually horrific numbers if you look at that, if you look at one demographic, or let's say rather one job, people in one sector of the economy, that happens. Yes, luckily in lockdown, things were more quiet, but we've seen a huge spike. We went from January, February, March. March we had 26 attacks, and then we had 14 attacks, and then we started going up 28, 61, 52, 48, 43 so far. So it's huge numbers that we are talking about. It is really disturbing. We've already got 334 farm attacks this year. We are only in the 9th month, busy with the October now, 10th month. And 101 farmers murdered, and already added in this month more. So it is really stark statistics that we are dealing with.
Yeah, look, it's just shocking. And I'm just so happy that this channel, well, I've got a few YouTube channels, but the 2 main ones are getting a lot of traction around the world, and people are now realizing what is happening in South Africa. And just talking about that, okay, last Tuesday, what happened in Senekal? Did the farmers try and go through to where these 2 guys were behind bars to kill them? Did they go in there fully armed? Because there's so many reports I've heard in the mainstream media like News 24, The Citizen, SABC, Enka, all saying these things, that the farmers were totally out of control at Senekal. Can you please, as someone who was right there, who witnessed the whole thing, what actually happened?
Okay, I wasn't there when they stormed the magistrate's building and all of that, so it's all second-hand information. Okay, a lot of the farmers were armed. I don't say a lot, but there were people that were armed. but the firearms were all carried in the prescribed manner by law. Nobody brandished any weapons or fired shots in the air like other political leaders have done in the past.
Who fired the shots in the courthouse?
There is conflicting reports. I think that the police fired shots, and there's a possibility that somebody else fired shots as well. But we weren't there to see. So we'll have to wait for the investigation of that to come out and see who fired the shots. But no, there was no shots fired at anybody. It seems like warning shots were fired. So I think let's see what happens with the investigation of who fired the shots. I think the police fired shots, and we'll have to see if farmers fired shots as well. That is unclear at this stage. I don't have anybody that can told me that farmers did fire any shots. So, but let's see what comes out of the investigation with that.
Okay, now with the second-hand information you got from people who actually went into the courthouse, did they say to you that the farmers were forcing their way to the cells?
Yes, there's reports that they forced their way to the cells. Yes.
Okay, so that is what happened.
And that is what happened. Yes.
Okay. Now the guy who's been arrested, Andre Pina, I think his name is. He's 52 years old. Now they've thrown the book at him.
Yes, it's very interesting. All the charges laid against him. I think a lot of it's political. I can't see really evidence to charge him with terrorism and all of that, not on the way I understand law anyway. If he's being charged with terrorism and all the cases against him, we've got a few political leaders that should be really scared then, because then they should be in jail already for terrorism as well.
Right. Is he still on? Is he still locked up?
Yes, he's still locked up. They had his bail application heard on Friday. The matter was postponed till Tuesday for the magistrate to give his verdict.
Okay, so the magistrate didn't let him out on bail last week?
No, because it's a little bit more complicated, everything going on, so he wanted time to get his judgment correct.
Well, I think what's happening is it's Bekesele behind the scenes. That's what's happening.
I think it's just more than Bekesele. I tell a lot of people, it's not the ANC doesn't work that one guy speaks. It's always the collective. You can always see that the collective says. Yeah. So I think it's more than Bekesele. He's a lot of times just the guy that is the mouthpiece for their policies. But I think it's a wider thing. The government is under pressure from other groups to show that they are hard on the farmers. And I think unfortunately Andre is bearing the brunt of it. But let's see what comes out of it. I believe he will, in the end, justice will be served.
What I found very disturbing, and I've never ever seen this in a media report before, is that I think it was MMV or one of these mainstream South African news channels. They actually filmed inside the court case where he was heard last week. And they played a clip where the judge said that he had a prior arrest for theft back in 2011 or 2000, whatever it was. And I thought, now that is just absolutely ridiculous that they're actually putting that into a public video clip that's been presented to everybody. They would never do that normally.
No, it's something that would not be done normally. People, the press would be allowed to take pictures, but not record sound live and stuff. There should have been a separate hearing to get that allowed. But it's all the political game that's being played out in South Africa at the moment to try to get tensions higher, and it's very unfortunate that they're trying to do this.
So you feel this is a deliberate strategy by the ANC to create racial division?
I won't say that it's to create racial division. I think it's more to get attention away from them. The Zondo Commission is going on, the VPS looting is in the news and stuff. So at least for a week or two, the whole media and all the attention is away from them, what's happening over there. So I think that's a lot to do with it as well.
Well, I guess we should be pleased that at least they aren't blaming apartheid and Jan van Riebeck in this case, because that seems
Yeah,
to be
poor
their
Jan has
fallback
been,
position, doesn't it?
that's always been the fallback position. What I've noticed all across the world, as soon as somebody's losing the argument or the position, the fallback position is always racism, and that's
Yeah, the R word.
one must keep to the facts and the issues. And
Yeah,
but unfortunately, that's the case throughout the world.
yeah. No, it's just absolutely crazy. Okay, now um, let's look at this position. It's about crime. It's not about race. Crime doesn't know race. Now, one of the factors we haven't actually touched on yet is that a small portion, but a significant portion of the farm attacks don't happen against the white population. They happen against other groups of people, maybe Indians, Africans, and coloreds, and so on. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, everybody on farms and small holdings are a target for these criminals. We are a soft target. We always called in old military times. We are further away from the police. Our roads are bad. The police don't always have the good vehicles. Communication is a problem. Last year in Senekal, a black man was murdered on a small holding that one can also classify as a farm murder. So it's not only us that gets targeted. We've got quite a number of black farmers around here. And I've told a lot of people this week, the term boer is bandied around very frequently in a derogatory way. But you can talk to a lot of black farmers, and if you ask them what are they will tell you, I'm a boer. And these people are putting our businesses, putting everything they did in life into a property. And the farmers around here, the black farmers, are getting hammered just as much as we are, in some cases more, if you look at the percentage of their stock that's stolen, which might make it really unfeasible and very difficult for them to continue with their farming operations. And in the context of land and everything going on in South Africa, it's really important that we keep the guys that want to farm and are successful, not to have any more obstacles in their way in having a successful farming business.
Right. Now, I just get back to that woman who went to the spaza shop, and the manner in which the Africans in that spaza shop said, look, please, we want to come and join you to protest at Senekal. Stop your bakkies so we can get in the back and support you. That to me says it all. What are your thoughts on that?
No, it says it all. If you go and look at all the video footage, there's one video clip on Facebook where, when we started off with prayer and a piece out of the Bible, you can see a lot of black people with us in solidarity. And I won't say even solidarity. They are there with us. They are also targeted in the crime. They are there as farmers and affected people. And we all kneel down in prayer, and it shows you their feeling as well. And so that's why it was very strange for me when this racial tension thing suddenly came up. But it was all manufactured by mainstream media and the politicians that wanted new talking points and wanted to get something, some political traction out of the whole thing.
In your view, what should happen to people like Julius Malema? If I was in South Africa and I had the power, I would have Julius Malema behind bars, because he is just an ugly, evil individual. What are your thoughts on Malema?
My thoughts on Malema and all political leaders that does hate speech and incite violence should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. There's phrases in the law at the moment that gives grey areas, and that's how they get away with it all the time. But we can't have in a country like ours that's so polarized, with people that is so desperate, have politicians with such speeches and stuff calling for the killing of people. Words do have meanings, and they can't keep on spreading their hate. People pay for their lives and pay in blood for their comments on their rallies and in their speeches.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, it's just absolutely awful. Now, okay, you mentioned stock theft just now, and the crime is obviously not just stock theft, it's what they do to the farmers and all those sort of things. But I think in Paul Roo, your major area of loss is stock theft. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, we've got for quite a number of years. We had a huge problem. We do have a huge problem with stock theft. In South Africa, a lot of times talk about pot slaughter or potslachting, and that's where people steal 1, 2, or 3 sheep for own consumption. People that's really desperate, and they try to feed their families and maybe get a few rand, selling some of the meat and stuff. It's still bad for us, but our biggest problem now is the syndicates. It's organized crime, basically, the way that they steal sheep and move them to other areas and sell them then from there on. And they are highly organized in the way that they deal with all of this. So that's our big problem. They're stealing 150, huge numbers of sheep. And if I know one black farmer that just had over 100 sheep, I think they left him 5 of his stock.
Wow.
After 2 years. So my heart goes out to that poor guy.
Now, the 2 guys who actually murdered Brendan Horner, the information I'm hearing is that they're associated with a couple of senior police in the area. Have you heard that?
Yes, there's been informants that has given us names of police officers that's involved with this. They give them protection. They give them information when we are doing patrols and stuff like that. So, yes, it's part of our problem, and that's why we want the police to come and get a national task team to investigate it and get to the bottom of the stock theft in this area. Okay,
well, the obvious question is, why isn't Bekele talking about that?
It's an inconvenient proof at the moment.
So he just pushes it under the carpet.
Yeah,
and that brings us to the point of the failure of the government to address the issue.
Yes, but it's like all crime in South Africa. The government are not getting to the mandate that was given to them by the people to look after everybody and do proper governance and look after all the people. It's really a failure of state at the moment that we are seeing on multiple levels in this country.
Well, I don't think the ANC government could organise a barbecue in a park, let alone run a country. This is why South Africa is in the shit it is.
At least they know where to get some meat.
That brings us to okay. That brings us to a very interesting meeting that I covered earlier today in Lichtenburg, and the farmers, the Boers, they've had enough. They're gatvol. I mean, they're beyond gatvol. They're at a point where they're just saying this is bullshit. And they had a meeting in Lichtenburg where several community leaders got up, and the whole idea was to see if they could find Sina's mystical man in the brown suit who would lead the Boers and the Afrikaners out of this black domination in politics. What are your thoughts on Sina van Rensburg and his prophecies?
He's got some very interesting prophecies and stuff. I think the problem at the moment is our people are trying to get his visions to come true. They're forcing issues. If we're going to get a leader that speak for our people or for our grouping, it's somebody that will come naturally. To try and elect somebody and try to push somebody and things like that, I can't see that working. God will provide us a leader at the appropriate time. For us to hold meetings and try to force that we've got a leader and things like that, it's I don't know. It's not really, I can't see that being fruitful. It's again us trying to impose our will and our ideas and things like that. So I'm skeptical about that way forward.
Right. Okay, I'm just going to address people watching quickly. We've got nearly 1,000 people watching at the moment. Guys, if you've got questions you want to put to Jess, please just put them in the side chat. I've got a couple of questions here that I'll put to you in a second, Jess. But I want to get back to a very, very important issue, and that is, you know, remember the old 1961 half-cent piece, that little brass half-cent piece? It had 3 magical words on it. Eendracht maakt macht. Unity is strength. And community unity is clearly a critical issue in these times. Tell me about the importance of community unity.
A community unity is the only way that we can address issues. After this event that transpired this week, one of the pastors in Senekal in the Black Township called us and said, we must please get together to address some of the issues, because with the media and all the narratives they were running, people were a little bit not sure what was going on. So we had a meeting with local leaders of political parties, religious leaders and stuff. And we just gave them the facts on the table, why the Senekal March happened. We explained to them that it was a small group of people that got, let's say, violent, but like you said earlier, the police vehicle nearly ran over people. So there were some things that exaggerated the situation. But we got to understanding that we as Senekal and the surrounding areas will work on the issues facing us as different communities. And rather than start fighting each other, that will rather look at solutions for the communities. There's a lot of small things, or not small, for us it might seem that it's small, but for them it's major issues. And if we work together, we have huge amount of networks and people that we know that we can get help for what we need. And for instance, they've been asking government for a long time, just outside of Senekal on the one road next to the township, there's a bridge. And that bridge doesn't have any hand railings, and the kids and stuff walk over that bridge. So they said there's something that they want us to put pressure on it to get handrails on that bridge. So we'll see if we can maybe get something done, that we maybe do it ourselves and stuff. So I think as a community, if we have unity and we look after our own issues, we can address a lot of it and put the political parties aside and work as a community with their political leaders and get solutions for each area so that everybody can have a decent living.
Right. Now, one of the things that I read was that what was the catalyst for the arrests of these guys who murdered Brendan Horner was the reward of 50,000 Rand by the person who actually owned the farm. And once that reward was put up, someone came forward and said, I know exactly who it is, and that's how they caught these guys. Is this potentially a solution to catching thugs who do this sort of stuff in the future? And should the government be paying this reward money?
It definitely, I think, I'm not sure who gave the information. The police are very tight-lipped on how things worked, and I don't want to put them in the difficult to ask them all small details. But a reward will always help. You must remember these communities some of them are living in dire conditions after COVID. Not everybody has got jobs and stuff. But I want to say to you, our detectives here do have informants in town. We have a good relationship with the people in Fateng next to faqrm. So I think even without a reward, we would have gotten information. The people in the area are against crime and against murder. So they would have gotten information out of it, but having a reward out surely would have made it more easier for the people to get information.
Now seeing that the ANC hierarchy are stealing billions of Rand every year out of the taxpayers' money, don't you think that there should be an automatic reward of, let's say, 100,000 Rand offered by the government, not by the public, for the arrest of someone or groups who actually commit these farm attacks.
It will be nice if we do have something like that, but you will have immediately people saying, I think how many murders are committed each day in South Africa. I think there's something like 50 murders, more than 50 murders a day.
It's about 60.
So about 60. So we've got more, close to 3 people that's being murdered every hour. So it's horrific with things like that. So it would be nice if we've got rewards out for things like that, especially if it is horrendous murders and things that involve torture and stuff. It will definitely help if government steps up to the plate and to immediately make sums of that available, like it did with the Detective Kinnear that was murdered or assassinated in Cape Town as well. They immediately made money available. So I think in cases like this, on merit, things like that should definitely be done.
And don't you think they should bring back the death penalty? I think the death penalty for murder and rape would have a huge impact on those crimes.
Yes, it will have an impact. My question that I ask people, I'm not sure if I trust our government at the moment with the power to decide life and death. There's so many things that is not up to standard and up to scratch. I'm really worried about that side, but having a death penalty will definitely have an influence on that. I think the biggest thing that needs to happen is that our judiciary should start functioning properly. Cases should get through court quicker. People should not get bail as easily as they are doing.
Yes, that's
if somebody is anybody that's had a violent crime should not get bail. They should keep them in there. There's so many cases of people that were out on bail with horrendous crimes that committed it again.
I totally agree with you when it comes to bail. I mean, that if someone rapes someone or they murder someone, they should be stuck away until they actually get tried. Okay, now this coming Friday, the 16th of October, there's again a hearing at Senekal where these 2 guys are going to be before the court, and Julius Malema has called on his fighters to be there. Now, I've heard information from people suggesting that there are members of the EFF who are in the township near Senekal stirring up shit and trying to get some of the blacks to come and cause trouble in the town on Friday. Now, there are 2 schools of thought. One is that people should just stay away. None of the community should actually go and protest on Friday the 16th. Just let the EFF walk around and cause the sort of shit that they normally do. And the other school of thought is that, no, we're going to be there. We're going to protect the Senekal community. And if the EFF try and be clever, we'll sort them out. What are your thoughts about what is the right thing to do in this situation?
Okay, I'm going to address a few things that you said. Okay, firstly, I think the chances of it being held in Senekal are extremely low. We've already heard that they're going to move it to a bigger center. Julius Malema has made some dangerous remarks on calling people to go there and calling them to come to Senekal or wherever the court case is heard. The EFF in Senekal, we had a meeting with them. There was already last March that was a message that was sent out that they should do a march on Friday and protest and stuff. That we called them because we have been dealing with them with other crimes and stuff. And they said categorically that they did not put out the message. And so the march didn't happen. So at the moment, there's nothing happening in Senekal from them side. If we look at people coming to wherever the court case is held, I think we should not be drawn into a conflict that we did not want. All the generals and everybody of military strategists will always say you must always choose your battleground. Don't let the enemy dictate the battleground. So I don't think we must drawn into a conflict on Julius Malema's terms. People should be clear-headed. And we saw with the bail application, the police were in huge numbers. So let Julius Malema destroy himself and show the world what the EF is really about.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll be covering the protest, or we're going to be covering what happens on the 16th anyway in Senekal. Now,
awesome.
I've got a few questions here I'm just going to put to you. Ray first has asked, please ask Jess how many were involved and how many were arrested in Brendan's case.
So far, 2 people were arrested. I'm not sure how many more are still, the police are still looking for, but they are still looking for more perpetrators of this murder. But I don't know how many of them are they looking for exactly at the moment.
Right. Okay. Now, I've got a question here from Martin. He says, please ask why no technology was used to identify stock. Now, before I just put that, well, let me put that question to you. I've got a separate question I want to ask you.
I didn't caught that one. Why was technology used for?
To identify stock. In other words, like maybe a little GPS type thing on sheep or something like that.
Okay, we do use we do use marking systems and stuff on sheep. We do have collars and stuff that we put on sheep and stuff and cattle to show us and warn us at night if people are chasing or moving the sheep around, virtual fencing and stuff like that. But if there's any markings on the animal and stuff, they are cut off and removed. And by the time, if we recover the sheep, we get them back. But the problem is they are slaughtered so quickly and the meat are sold. So it's difficult to trace that. Then we have to go into DNA and things like that to prove ownership. And at the moment, our legal system doesn't have or our forensic doesn't have the ability to do all of that testing.
Right. Now, I put up a video yesterday. Someone sent me inside information about a shop in Cape Town, an IT type shop, you know, where they sell computers and stuff like that. And they were selling signal jammers to the public. What are your thoughts about that?
Signal jammers has been around for quite a while now. You can order them on Alibaba and all of those places. So these things are around. That's why it's always important that a farmer do have multiple ways of contacting people to get help to them. But it's very disturbing that those things are around. It should be banned. It should not be around. It's in the domain of our security services to have technology like that.
Right. Well, I just think it's absolutely disgusting that sort of thing can be sold in South Africa. Now, Greg Adams has asked. He says, you know, I'm a very strong supporter of Orania. Could you please ask Jess, why are we not hearing about farm terror in Orania? Why are they doing things right? They're doing their community looks different around there. There might be farmers as well. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with statistics around there. I think a lot of to do is that they are a little bit more organized, more aware. Our biggest problem in farm security and stuff is people that is not part of the stuff. People's what can I say, ignorance about it. It happens to somebody else. It will never happen to me. So it's difficult without all the facts to say why Orania has got less. But community involvement is the big key to it, and I think they are very involved in everything in their community. Right. Okay. Now, just talking about the future. um, the situation that happened with Brendan, this awful situation. Do you think that the farming community at Paul Roo can heal after this?
Oh, South Africans has been resilient people for forever. Um, we will get over things again. I just hope that we try and get solutions, get to the bottom of the stock theft, that we get everybody involved with that also arrested and prosecuted. We have to strengthen our community policing and our security rural safety plans and get everybody involved, the ones that's not involved yet. And yes, we will move forward, and South Africans is never the guys that are surrendered. We always went forward.
Right. Okay, I just want to address the viewers. We've got about 900 people watching at the moment. Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. I'm going to be winding up our live stream shortly, but if you have got questions you'd like to pose to Jess, now is the time to put them in the side chat, and I will certainly put them to him. Now, Jess, is there something you would like to say to people who are watching this video now or who might watch it later? Just something that you feel is important.
The thing that is important, we have to change what is going on. People ask me after we delivered our speeches, to whom are we going to deliver our demands? And we phrase it on purpose as demands. Now, it doesn't help us to hand it over to a station commissioner or a judge or anybody. Nothing's going to happen to it. That's the experience that we had now forever. What is important, international viewers, that they talk to their government officials, their senators, their congressmen, that they put pressure on our government to do what they're supposed to do and protect all of its citizens. South Africans, my plea is get involved with your rural safety plans. Make sure that you're part of the plan, that people know who you are and can get contact with you. And that if you've got trouble, that you can get the help that's necessary. Be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem.
Right. Okay. Guys, I'm going to wrap up this live stream. I just want to thank Jess so much for coming on live with us. We will be following what happens in Senekal and the Free State farming area. Just for the record, Jess, we've got a lot of farmers who follow the Loving Life channel, and a lot of old and established friends who follow this channel. So I have a lot of inside information as to what's going on. And I really feel for you guys, because this ANC government is not doing the right thing. It's a complete and utter disgrace, quite honestly. So I just want to thank you for coming on and spending the time with us to fill in a few of the gaps that we needed. For those who've been watching the live stream, thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, we're going to be talking about the spiritual war happening around us, not just in South Africa, around the world. And it's a very, very real war. And we're going to be having Dr. Peter Hammond from Cape Town. We're going to be having Keith Brown, who's a priest in the UK. We're going to have, of course, Dan Berriman, who's our resident Loving Life priest, who will be part of the discussion. And we're also going to have a Ramkat, who's brought out several videos on his outrage about what's going on in South Africa. Ramkat's joining us as well. So we're going to have 4 people, and the subject is the spiritual war happening around the world right now, and where is it going? Alrighty, I'm going to wrap up the live stream. Once again, thank you so much, Jess, for joining us. And everybody, please take care, and I'll see you hopefully tomorrow night.
Thank you for having us.
You're very, 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 very welcome, Jess. Oh, before I shut down, I've just got to say, guys, I'll leave the side chat open for a little while so you can interact there for a few minutes.